Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this fine theatre. I have been called the master of suspense, but nothing is more horrifying than talking or texting in the middle of a play. Please do not text during the play because it makes everyone psycho. Sincerely and emphatically, Alfred Hitchcock.
And according to Scotland Yard, the crime took place at 24 Culver Street, Paddy. The murdered woman was a Mrs. Maureen Lyne. In connection with the murder, the police are anxious to interview a man seen in the vicinity wearing a dark overcoat, light scarf, and soft felt hat. Motorists are warned against icebound roads. The heavy snow is expected to continue, and throughout the country, there will be a certain freeze.
My, it's cold. Wow, really does look nice. Oh, how stupid of Giles. Gosh.
Molly, where are you?
Doing all of the work, you brute.
Oh, there you are. Leave it all to me. Shall I stoke the fireplace?
Done.
Hello, sweetheart. Your nose is cold.
I've just come in.
Why, surely you've not been out in this weather.
Had to go down to the village to pick up some things I'd forgotten. Did you get the chicken netting?
It wasn't the right kind. Went on down to another dump, but it wasn't the right kind either. Practically my whole day wasted. My God, I'm half frozen. The car was squeaking like anything. What do you bet we're not starting up tomorrow?
Oh dear, I do hope not. Only the pipes don't freeze.
Yeah, we'll have to keep the central heating well stoked. Really was just in the coke alarm. We haven't gotten too much.
I do so want everything to go well at first. First impressions are so important.
Got cold feet, have you? Are you sorry now we didn't sell the place when your aunt left it to you instead of having this mad idea of running it as a guest house?
No, I'm not. But speaking of a guest house, just look at that.
It's pretty good. What?
You've left out the S, Monkwell instead of Monkswell.
I fixed it. In any case, Monkwell is just as good as a name.
You're a disgrace. Go and stoke up the central heating.
All the way across that ICR. Shall I bank it up for the night?
Oh, no, you don't do that until 10 or 11 o'clock at night.
How appalling.
Hurry up. Someone may arrive any minute now.
You've got all the rooms worked out.
Yes. Miss Boyle, front Miss Casewell Eastrom and Mr. Brandon Oakroom.
I wonder what all these people are to be like. Oughtn't we have gotten written in advance?
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Where are their mugs at this game?
They bring luggage. If they don't pay, we hang on to their luggage. It's quite simple.
I can't help but thinking we should take in a correspondence course in hotel keeping. What if their luggage is to be brick stacked up in newspapers, wherever to be then?
They all wrote from very good addresses.
That's what servants with forged references do. These people may be criminals hiding from the police.
I don't care what they are, so long as they pay us 7 guineas a week.
You're such a wonderful woman of business, Molly.
And according to Scotland Yard, the crime took place at 24 Culver Street, Penn. The murdered woman was a Mrs. Maureen Light. In connection with the murder, the police are anxious to interview a man seen in the vicinity wearing a dark overcoat, light scarf, and soft velvet hat. Motorists are warned against ice-bound roads. The heavy snow is expected to continue, and throughout the country there will be a certain freezing, particularly.
How do you do?
Thanks so much. Weather's simply awful. My taxi gave up at your gate. Wouldn't even attempt the drive. No sporting instinct. You must be Mrs. Ralston. How delightful. My name is Red.
How do you do, Mr. Wren?
You know, you're not as all as I pictured you. I'd been imagining some retired general's widow Indian army. I thought you'd be terrifically grim and memsahibbish, and the whole place would be simply crammed full of Benares brass. But instead it's heavenly. White heaven. It's got lovely proportions. But that's a fake. Ah, the table's genuine. I'm going to love it here, but do you have any wax flowers of birds of paradise?
No, I'm afraid not.
What a pity. But what about a sideboard? A purple plummy mahogany sideboard with a great solid fruits gone by.
Yes, we have in the dining room.
And there, I must see it.
Do come and warm yourself.
Absolutely perfect. Real bedrock respectability. But why do away with a center mahogany table? Little tables just spoil the effect.
Well, we thought guests would prefer them. This is my husband.
How do you do? Awful weather, isn't it? Takes one back to the Dickens and Scrooge and that irritating Tiny Tim. So bogus. But of course, Mrs. Ralston, you're right about little tables. I was being carried away by my feelings for the period. If you had a center mahogany table, you'd have the right family around it. Stern, handsome father with a beard, faded, prolific mother, 11 children of assorted ages, a grim governess, and somebody called Poor Harriet. The distant relation that acts as a general lout and is very, very grateful to be given a good home.
I'll take your things up. Oakroom, did you say?
Yes.
I do hope it's got a four-poster with those little chintz roses.
It hasn't.
Don't suppose your husband is going to like me very much. How long have you been married? Are you very much in love?
We've been married just a year. Perhaps you'd like to come up and see your room.
Ticked off. I do so like knowing about new people. That is to say, I find people so very interesting, don't you?
Well, I suppose some are and some are not.
No, I don't agree. I think they're all interesting. Because in the end, you never really know what anybody's thinking. For instance, you don't know what I'm thinking about right now, do you?
Not in the least.
See? The only people who know what others are thinking are artists. It's never their portrait painters that comes out on the canvas.
Are you a painter?
No, I'm an architect. My parents baptized me as Christopher in the hopes that I'd become an architect. Christopher Red, as good as halfway home. But of course, everybody laughs about it and makes jokes about St. Paul's, but I may yet have the last laugh. Chris Wren's prefab nests may yet go down in history. I'm going to love it here. I find your wife most sympathetic.
Indeed.
And really very good.
Oh, don't be absurd.
Isn't that like an English woman? Compliments always embarrass them. European women find compliments a matter of course, but English women seem to have all the feminine spirit crushed out of them by their husbands. There's something very boorish about English husbands.
Come up and see your room.
Shall I?
Giles, could you stoke up the hot water boiler?
This is Monkswell Manor, I presume. presume?
Yes?
I am Miss Boyle.
I'm Giles Ralston. Come into the fire and give me one. Is this all your luggage?
A Major Metcalf, is it? Is seeing to it.
I'll leave the door for him.
The taxi wouldn't risk coming up the drive. We had to share one from the station, and there was much difficulty in getting that. Nothing ordered to meet us, it seems.
I'm so sorry. If we'd have known the train would come by, of course we'd had someone standing by.
All trains should have been met.
Let me take your coat. My wife will be done in a moment. Let me go get Metcalf and hand the bags.
The drive might at least have been cleared of snow. Most offhand and casual, I must say.
I'm so sorry.
Mrs. Ralston,
Yes, I was
you're quite young
young.
to be running an establishment of this kind. You can't have had much experience.
Well, there has to be a beginning for everything, hasn't there?
I see. Quite inexperienced. An old house. I hope you haven't got dry rot.
Certainly not.
Most people don't know they've got dry rot until it's too late to do anything about it.
The house is in perfect condition.
Could do with a coat of paint. You know, you've got worm in the soak.
This is my wife.
Hello. Major Metcalf. One point I thought we shouldn't make it here. Fierce storm. We'll have 4 or 5 feet of snow by morning if it keeps up at this rate. Oh, I do beg your pardon. Yes, I don't remember it coming down this fiercely since 1940, yes.
I'll take the things up. Rose room and blue room?
No, I put Mr. Wren in the rose room, who likes the 4 posters so much, so it's Miss Boyle in the oak room and Major Metcalf in the blue room.
Major?
Oh, sir.
Do you have much servant difficulty here?
We have quite a good local woman who comes in from the village.
And what indoor staff?
No indoor staff, just us.
I see. I thought this was a guest house in full running order.
Well, we're only just starting.
I would have thought that a full staff of servants was essential before opening an establishment of this kind. I consider your advertisement most misleading. May I ask if I'm the only guest staying here? With Major Metcalf, that is.
No, we have several here.
There's weather too, no less. A blizzard. Oh, very unfortunate.
We couldn't very well foresee the weather.
The north wind doth blow, and it will bring snow. And what will the robin do then, poor thing? I adore nursery rhymes, always so tragic and macabre. That's why children like them.
May I introduce Mr. Wren, Mrs. Boyle?
How do you do?
I think this is a very beautiful house, don't you?
I've come to a time in my life when the amenities of an establishment are more important than its appearance. If I had not believed this to be a running concern, I never should have come.
There is no obligation for you to remain here if you're not satisfied, Miss Boyle.
No, I wouldn't think of doing so.
If there's been any misapprehensions, perhaps you'd be better if you went elsewhere. I could ring for the taxi to turn the roads when I get blocked in. In any case, we're raising our terms next month.
I'm certainly not going to leave before I've tried what the place is like, Mr. Ralston. Besides, you think you can turn me out now. Perhaps you'll show me to my room, Mrs. Ralston.
Certainly, Miss Boyle. Darling, you're wonderful.
I think that's a perfectly horrible woman. I don't like her at all. I'd love it if you were to turn her out into the snow. Serve her right.
It's a pleasure I've got to forgo, I'm afraid. Boy, there's another of them. Come in, come in.
Afraid my car is bogged down about half a mile down the road. Ran into a bit of a drift.
Let me take this. Any more things in the car?
No, I travel light. Glad to see you've got a good fire.
Mr. Wren, this is Miss
Casewell.
Casewell. My wife will be down in a moment.
No hurry. Gotta get myself thawed out. Looks as though you're gonna get snowed up here. Weather forecast says heavy falls expected, motorists warned, etc. Hope you've got plenty of provisions in.
Oh yes, my wife is an excellent manager. In any case, we can always eat our hands.
Before we start each other in.
Does the news say anything else? Apart from the weather?
Oh, you know, usual political crisis and... Oh, a rather juicy murder.
Murder? I like murder.
They seem to think it was a homicidal maniac. Strangled a woman somewhere near Paddington. Sex maniac, I suppose.
Doesn't say much, does it? The police are anxious to interview someone seen in the vicinity of Culver Street at the time. Medium build, wearing dark overcoat, light scarf, and soft felt hat. Police messages to this effect have been broadcast throughout the day.
Useful description. Fit pretty well anyone, wouldn't it?
When it says the police are anxious to interview someone, is that a polite way of hinting that he's the murderer?
Could be.
Who was the one who was murdered?
Mrs. Lyon. Mrs. Maureen Lyon.
Young or old?
Doesn't say. Doesn't seem to have been a robbery.
I told you. Sex maniac.
This is my wife, Molly, Miss Casewell. Miss Casewell.
How do you do?
It's an awful night. Perhaps you'd like to come up to your room. Water's hot if you'd like a bath.
You know, you're right. I would.
I must go to the kitchen and get on with things. You know, Major Metcalf's very nice. He won't be difficult at all. It's Miss Boyle that really concerns me. We must have a nice dinner. I was thinking of opening 2 tins of minced beef and peas and mashing the potatoes, and then there's stewed figs and custard. Do you think that would be all right?
I should think so. Not very original, perhaps.
Do let me help. I adore cooking. Why not an omelet? You've got eggs, haven't you?
Oh, yes, we've got plenty of eggs. We keep lots of fowls. They don't lay as well as they should, but we put down a lot of eggs.
And if you've got a bottle of cheap, any type wine, you could add it to the minced beef and potatoes, if you say. Fix yourself up a continental flavor. Show me where your kitchen is and what you've got, and I dare say I shall have an inspiration.
Come on. Isn't he sweet? He's put on an apron and he's getting all the things together. He says, leave it all to him and don't come back for half an hour. If our guests want to do the cooking for themselves, it will save a lot.
Why on earth did you give him the best room?
I told you, he likes the 4-poster.
He liked the pretty 4-poster. Twerp.
Giles.
I haven't got any use for his kind. You didn't handle the suitcase. I did.
Had it got bricks in it.
Had no weight at all. If you were to ask me, there was nothing inside of it. He's probably one of those young men who go around bilking hotel keepers.
I don't believe it. I like him. I do think Miss Casewell's rather odd, don't you?
Terrible female, if she even is a female.
Seems quite hard that all our guests should be either pleasant or just strange. I do think Major Metcalf's all right, though.
He probably drinks.
Oh, do you think so?
No, I was feeling rather depressed. Well, at least we know the worst of it now. They've all arrived.
Who could that be?
Probably the Culver Street murderer.
Don't.
Oh.
Oh, 1,000 pardons. I am... Where am I?
This is Monksholl Manor Guest House.
But what stupendous good fortune, madame. What an answer to prayer, a guest house, and a charming hostess. My Rolls Royce, alas, has run into a snowdrift. Blinding snow everywhere. I do not know what I am. Perhaps I think to myself, I shall freeze to death. And then I take a little bed. I stagger through the snow. I see before me big iron gates. A habitation. I am saved. Twice I fall into the snow as I come up your drive. But at last I arrive, and immediately despair turns to joy. You can let me have a room, yes?
Oh, yes?
I'm afraid it's a rather small one, but all the others are taken.
Oh, what about your bags?
Naturally, you have other guests.
Your bags?
Oh, no, that's of no consequence. I have locked my car securely.
Wouldn't it be better to get it in?
Oh, no. I assure you, on such a night as this, there will be no thieves abroad. And for me, my wants are very simple. I have all that I need here in this little bag. Yes, all that I need.
You better get fairly warm. I'll see about your room. I'm afraid it's going to have to be a rather cold one, because it faces north, but all the others are occupied.
So you have several guests then?
Oh, yes. There's Miss Boyle and Major Metcalf and Miss Casewell and the young man called Christopher Wren, and now you.
Yes, the unexpected guest. The guest you did not invite. The guest who just arrived from nowhere out of the storm. It sounds quite dramatic, doesn't it? Who am I? You do not know. Where do I come from? You do not know. Meet, I am the man of mystery. But now, I tell you this. I complete the picture. There will be no more arrivals and no more departures either. By tomorrow, perhaps even already, we are cut off from civilization. No butcher, no baker, no milkman, no postman, no daily papers, nobody, and nothing but ourselves. Oh, that is admirable. Admirable. It cannot suit me better. My name, by the way, is Parvicini.
Oh, yes. Ours is Ralston.
Mr. and Mrs. Ralston. And this is Monkswell Manor Guest House, you said. Good. Monkswell Manor Guest House. Perfect. Perfect.
You know, I consider it most dishonest not to have told us they were only just starting this place.
Well, everything's got to have a beginning, you know. Good breakfast this morning, scrambled eggs, good coffee, homemade marmalade. Little woman does it all herself, believe it or not.
Amateurs. There should be a proper staff.
Dinner was good last night.
Corned beef.
Yes, but a nicely disguised corned beef. Red wine. Also, Miss Ralston said she'd be baking us a pie tonight.
These radiators are not very hot. I shall speak about it.
Comfortable beds, too. Very warm. At least mine was. Hope yours was.
Mine was quite adequate. You know, I really don't see why the best room in the house should be given to that very peculiar young man.
Arrived here before us. First come, first served, I should imagine.
From the advertisement, I got a very different impression of what this place would be like. Bigger place altogether, with bridge and other amenities.
Regular old tabby salad, eh?
I beg your pardon.
I mean, yes, I do understand what you mean. Very, very dissatisfied.
No, I shan't be staying here long.
No, I don't suppose you will.
What a singularly ill-mannered and unbalanced young man.
Do you think it's possible that he's escaped from a lunatic asylum of some sort?
I wouldn't doubt it one bit.
Giles, can you shovel the snow away from the back door?
Coming.
You know what? I think I'll give you a hand, young man. Good exercise. And a man needs his exercise.
Oh, sorry.
You're fine.
old young woman. Doesn't she know anything about housework? Carrying the carpet sweeper through the front hall. Aren't there any back stairs?
Oh yes, very nice back stairs. Quite convenient if there is a fire.
Then why not use them? Anyway, all the housework should have been done before lunch.
I gather our hostess was cooking the lunch.
There should be a proper staff.
Not very easy to get nowadays, is it?
No, indeed. The lower class seems to have no idea of their responsibilities.
Oh, poor old lower class. Got the bit between their teeth, haven't they?
I gather you're a socialist.
I wouldn't say that. I'm not a red, just a pale pink. And besides, I don't take much interest in politics. I live abroad.
I'm sure conditions are much easier abroad.
Oh yes, I don't have to cook and clean as I gather most people have to do in this country.
This country has gone sadly downhill. Certainly not what it used to be. I had to sell my house last year. Everything was too difficult.
Hotels and guest houses are much easier.
They certainly solve some of one's problems. Are you over in England for long?
Depends. I have some business to see to, and when it's done, I shall go back.
To France?
No,
Italy?
no.
Would you mind not having that on quite so loud? I've always found music rather distracting when one is trying to write letters.
Do you?
If you wouldn't particularly mind not listening just
But
now.
it's my favorite music. You know there's writing to it in there.
I do, but it's much warmer here.
Oh yes, much warmer.
Wherever I go, the woman seems to put me down. And then she glares. She positively glares.
Hey, turn that down a bit.
Is that enough?
Yes, it served its purpose.
What purpose?
Tactics, boy.
You mean her?
She snagged the best chair, but I've got it now.
You drove her out. I'm glad. I'm very glad. Let's think of things we can do to annoy her, shall we? Wish she would leave this place.
In this, not a hope.
But when the snow
Oh,
melts...
when the snow melts, lots of things may have happened.
Yes, I suppose that's true. Snow's beautiful, isn't it? So peaceful and pure. It makes one forget things.
It doesn't make me forget.
Fierce you sound.
I was thinking,
What sort of thinking?
ice on a bedroom jug, goosebumps raw and bleeding, a thin, ragged blanket, a child shivering and cold and fear.
My, it sounds grim. Too grim. What is it, a novel?
You didn't know I was a writer, did you?
Are you?
No, I'm not. Sorry to disappoint.
Yes. Yes, this is Monk's Woman Guest House. No, I'm afraid Mr. Ralston can't come to the telephone just now. This is Mrs. Ralston speaking. Who? The Berkshire Police. Oh. Yes. Yes, Superintendent Hogman, I'm afraid that's impossible. We're snowed up, you see. Completely snowed up. Roads are impassable. Yes. Yes, very well. But what? Hello? Hello? Giles, the police have just run up.
Trouble with the police, huh? Serving liquor without a license.
Say they're sending out an inspector sergeant or something.
But he'll never get here.
That's what I said, but they seemed quite confident that he would.
Nonsense. Not even a jeep could get through today. Anyways, what was it all about?
That's what I asked, but who would it say? Just that I was to impress on my husband to listen very carefully to what Sergeant Trotter, I think, always had to say. Follows instructions implicitly.
What on earth do you think we've done?
Do you think it's those nylons from Gibraltar?
I did remember to get the wireless license, didn't I?
Yes, it's in the kitchen dresser.
I had around in your shape with the car the other day, but it was entirely the other fellow's fault.
We must have done something.
I expected something to do with running this place. I'm sure they ignored some tin pot regulation from the ministry now. You can't avoid it nowadays.
Dear, I wish we never started this place. We're going to be snowed up for days, and everyone is cross, and we should go through all our reserves of tins.
Cheer up, darling. Everything's going to be all right at the moment. I've done all the coal scuttles, and so for your guys, and next I'll go down to the boiler room and chop the kindling. You know, Molly, it must be something pretty serious to send a police sergeant checking out on all this. It must be urgent.
Ah, there you are, Mr. Ralston. Do you know that the central heating in the drawing room is practically stone cold?
I'm sorry, Miss Moore, we're a bit short on coke and...
I'm paying 7 guineas a week here. 7 guineas, and I do not want to freeze.
I'll go stoke it up.
If you don't mind my saying, Mrs. Ralston, that is a very peculiar young man you have staying here. His manners, his ties, and does he ever brush his hair?
Actually, he's an extremely brilliant young architect.
I beg your pardon.
Christopher Wren is an architect.
My dear young woman, I've naturally heard of Sir Christopher Wren. He built St. Paul's. You young people seem to think that no one is educated but yourselves.
I meant this Wren. His name is Christopher. His parents called him that in hopes that he become an architect, and he is, or nearly one, so turned out all right.
Sounds a fishy story to me. I'd make some inquiries about it if I were you. What do you know of him?
Just as much as I know about you, Miss Boyle, which is that you are both paying us 7 guineas a week. That's all I really need to know, and it's all that concerns me. It doesn't matter to me whether I like my guests or whether I don't.
You are young and inexperienced, and should welcome advice coming from somebody more knowledgeable than yourself. What of this foreigner?
What of him?
Well, you weren't expecting him, were you?
To turn away a bona fide traveler's against the law, Miss Boyle. You should know that.
All I'm saying is that this Mr. Parvacensi, or whatever he calls
Beware, dear lady. You talk with the devil, and here he is.
I didn't hear you come in.
I came in on tiptoe, like this. Nobody ever hears me if I do not want them to. I find it very amusing.
Indeed.
Now, there is a young lady.
I must get back to writing my letters.
My charming hostess looks upset. What is it, dear lady?
Well, everything's been rather difficult this morning because of all the snow.
Yes, snow makes things difficult, or else it makes them easy. Yes, very easy.
I don't know what you mean.
No, there's quite a lot you do not know. I think, for one thing, you do not know very much about running a guest house.
I dare say we don't, but we mean to make a go of it.
Bravo, bravo.
I'm not such a very bad cook.
You are, without doubt, an enchanting cook. May I give you a little word of warning, Mrs. Ralston? You and your husband must not be too trusting, you know. Have you references with these guests of yours?
Is that usual? I always thought people just came.
It is advisable to know a little about the people who sleep on your roof. Take, for example, myself. I turn up saying my car is overturned and a snowdrift. What do you know of me? Nothing at all. I could be a thief, a robber, a fugitive from justice, a madman, even a murderer.
Oh.
You see, and perhaps you know just as little of your other guests.
Well, as far as Miss Boyle goes,
The drawing room is still far too cold to write my letters. I shall do it in here.
Allow me to poke the fire.
Ah, Miss Ralston, is your husband about? I've some bad news, I'm afraid. It appears that the pipes in the basement are frozen.
oh dear, what an awful day. First the police, then the pipes.
Police?
They rang up just now. Say they're sending a sergeant out here, but I don't think he'll ever make it.
Already coke's more than half stones in the price.
Mr. Ralston, I hear the police are on their way. I want to know why.
That's all right, no one will get here today. The drifts are 5 feet deep. There's no way anyone will get here. Mr. Bartolucci, do you mind assisting these down?
Are you Mr. Ralston?
Yes.
Detective Sergeant Trotter, Berkshire Police. Might have come in for a minute.
Yes. Come around to the front door. I'll meet you.
I suppose that's what we pay our police force for nowadays. To go around having their fun at winter sports.
And why did you send for the police, Mrs. Ralston?
But I didn't.
Who was that man? He passed by the drawing room window on skis all over in snow and looking terribly hardy.
You may believe it or not, but that was a policeman. Policeman skiing.
This is Detective Sergeant Trotter.
Good afternoon.
You can't be a sergeant. You're far too young.
Not as young as you think, ma'am, but terribly hard.
We'll stow your skis under the stairs.
Miss Ralston, may I please use your telephone?
Of course, Major Metcalf.
He's quite attractive, isn't he? I always find policemen very attractive.
Do you, Mr. Wren? Besides, no brains. You can see that at a glance.
Miss Ralston, your phone is dead. Terribly dead.
It was all right about a half an hour ago.
Well, I shouldn't imagine that it's gone with the weight of the snow.
So we're cut off then. We're quite cut off. That's funny, isn't it?
You don't see what there is to laugh at.
No, indeed.
Oh, it's a personal joke of my own. Hist, the sleuth is returned.
Very well then, let's get down to business, Mr. Ralston. Mrs. Ralston.
Would you like to see us alone? If so, we can go to the library.
Actually, no, it's more convenient if everyone is actually here at the present time. Mind if we sit here?
Oh, do hurry up and tell us. What have we done?
Oh, done? Well, it's nothing of that matter. It's more of a matter of police protection, if you understand.
Police protection.
Yes, it relates to the death of Miss Maureen Lyon of 24 Culver Street. Was murdered yesterday, the 15th incident. You might have heard or read about the case somewhere.
Yes, I heard about it on the wireless. The woman who was strangled.
That's right. Now, what I need to know is if you had any connection with her.
I've never heard of her.
You might not have known her under the name of Lyon. See, that wasn't her real name. Her real name was Maureen Stanning. See, she had a police record that made her easily identifiable by her fingerprints. So your husband, John Stanning, was a farmer, and they resided at the Longridge Farm, not too far from here.
Longridge Farm. Isn't that where those children?
Yes, the Longridge Farm case.
3 children?
That's right, ma'am. From the Corrigans, 2 boys and a girl. They were brought before the court in need of police protection. A place was found at them at the Longridge Farm with the Stannings. Well, one of the children subsequently died from criminal neglect and ill treatment. The case made a bit of a sensation at the time, really.
It was horrible.
Yes. Now, the Stannings were sentenced on terms of imprisonment. Mr. Stanning served, and he died in his sentence. Well, Mrs. Stanning was released, and as I said yesterday, she was found dead at 24 Culver Street.
Who did it?
Well, I'm getting to that now. A notebook was picked up at the scene of the crime. Written in it were 2 addresses, one at 24 Culver Street, and the other one at 1 Monkswell Manor.
What?
And that's right, and that's why upon hearing this information from Scotland Yard, Superintendent Hogman thought it imperative for me to come out here and find out if you, or if anyone in this house, has any connection with the Longridge Farm case.
No, there's no connection. It has to be coincidence. It has to be a coincidence.
Superintendent Hogman doesn't believe it's a coincidence. He would have come out here himself. It would have been all possible due to the weather conditions outside and that I have skis. He gave me full instructions to get full particulars on everyone here to take any measures I deem necessary to ensure the safety of this household.
Safety? What kind of danger does he think we're in? Good Lord, he's not suggesting somebody's going to be killed here. Is he?
I'm friendly ladies, but frankly, yes, that's the idea.
But why?
Well, that's why I'm here to find out.
It's crazy!
It's because it's crazy, that's dangerous.
Nonsense.
I must say it seems a bit far-fetched.
I think it's wonderful.
Is there anything you haven't told us, Sergeant?
Yes. Written below the 2 addresses in the notebook was written 3 blind mice, and a note was found on the body saying, "This is the first." And below it was a bar of music to the nursery rhyme tune of the 3 blind mice. Now, you all know how it goes. 3 blind mice, 3 blind mice, see how they run. They all ran after the farmer's wife.
That's just horrible.
There were 3 children and 1 died?
Yes, the youngest boy of 11.
What happened to the other 2?
Well, the girl was adopted soon afterwards, and we have no information on her present whereabouts. So, the boy, he'd be about 22 now, and from our information, he served in the army and deserted soon after. The psychiatric report said he definitely had schizophrenia, but queer in the head, you might say.
And they think it was he who killed Miss Lyon, or Miss Stanning,
Yes.
and that he's the homicidal maniac, and he'll turn up here and try to kill someone. But why?
Well, that's what I'm here to find out. Now, as Superintendent Hogman sees it, there must be a connection now. Now, you yourself say you have no connection with the Longridge Farm case?
No.
And the same goes to you, ma'am?
No. No, I mean, like, no connection.
Right, and what about the servants around here?
We haven't got any servants. That reminds me. Would you mind, Sergeant, if I went to the kitchen? I'll be there if you need me.
Quite all right. Can I get everyone's names, please?
Really, Sergeant, this is quite ridiculous. Why should we have anything to do with this? We're merely staying at a kind of guest house. We just arrived last night.
Well, you all planned to come here. You all booked in advance, correct?
Well, yes. I'll accept Mr.
Paravicini. My car overturned in a snowdrift.
So what I'm getting at here is that if anyone was able to follow you, they'd know very well that you're here. Now, there's one thing I gotta know, and I need to know it quick. Did any of you have any connection with the long-range farm case? You're not being very sensible. You're all in danger, deadly danger, and I've got to find out which one of you is. Very well. Since you arrived here last, sir, I'll start with you, Mr.
Paravicini. But my dear Inspector, I know nothing, but nothing of what you've been talking about. I am a stranger in this country. I know nothing of these local affairs of bygone years.
You, Mrs.
Boyle. Really, I don't see. Actually, I consider it an impertinence. Why should I have anything to do with such distressing business?
Miss.
Casewell. Leslie Casewell. I've never heard of Longridge Farm, and I know nothing about it.
No, you, sir.
Me?
Yes, correct.
Metcalf. Major. I believe I was stationed in Edinburgh at the time of the case, and I have no personal connection to my knowledge.
And you?
Christopher Wren. I was but a child at the time. I don't remember even hearing about it.
And that's all you have to say? All of you? Very well. One of you gets murdered, you have yourself to blame. Mr. Ralston, why don't you show me around the house?
My dears, how melodramatic. I've always found the police quite attractive. So stern and hard-boiled. Quite a thrill, the whole business. 3 blind mice. Now, how does the tune go?
Really, Mr. Wren?
You don't like it? But it's a signature tune. The signature of the murderer. Just fancy what a kick he must be getting out of it.
Melodramatic rubbish, the whole lot of it. I don't believe a word.
But just you wait, Mrs. Boyle, till I creep up behind you and you feel my hands sneaking around your throat.
Stop!
I do say steady on, Christopher. It's a bad joke. It's not even a joke at that.
Ah, but it is. That's just what it is. A madman's joke. That's just what makes it so deliciously macabre. If you could only see your faces.
What a peculiar young man.
Where's Giles?
Taking our policeman on a conducted tour of the house.
Your friend, the architect, has been behaving rather strangely.
He's a young man. Must be a little nervy in the head at his age. I do believe he'll grow out.
Nerves? I haven't got patience with people who say they have nerves. I myself haven't got any.
Oh. Well, that must be very, very convenient for you, Mrs. Boyle.
Why do you say that?
You know, if my memory serves me its dues, I believe that you were a magistrate on the jury that sent those children to the Longridge Farm in the first place.
Really, Major Metcalf, I can hardly be held responsible. We had reports from welfare workers, and the farm people seemed very eager to have the children. It seemed quite an adequate life, with fresh milk and eggs and a healthy out-of-doors life.
Kicks, blows, starvation, and a thoroughly horrid couple looking after them.
But how was I to know? They were very civilly spoken.
I was right. It was you.
A woman tries to do a public duty, and all one gets is abuse.
You must forgive me, but indeed I find all this most amusing. I enjoy myself greatly.
I never did like that man.
Where did he come from last night?
I don't know.
He looks like a con to me. Makes his face up too with rouge and powder. It's disgusting. And he must be quite old too.
And yet he skips about as though he were quite young.
The fire's dying. You'll be wanting more firewood. I'll get it.
I'll go see if the drawing room's a bit warmer now.
boring little tune, that is.
You don't like it? Reminds you of your childhood, perhaps, an unhappy childhood?
I was very happy as a child.
You were lucky.
Weren't you happy?
No,
I'm sorry.
that's all right. It's all behind me now. One gets over things.
I suppose.
Or doesn't one? It's damned hard to say.
They say that what happened when you're a child matters more than anything else.
They say. Who says?
Psychologists?
I'll let it hooey the whole thing. I've no use for psychologists and psychiatrists.
I've never really had much to do with them.
Good for you, you haven't. It's all a damned lot of nonsense. You know what I think? Life's what you make of it. You have to go straight ahead and never look back.
Well, one can't always help looking back.
Nonsense. It's a question of willpower.
Perhaps.
I know.
I expect you're right, but sometimes things happen to make you remember.
Well, then don't give in. Turn your back on them.
Is that really the right way? I wonder. Perhaps that's all wrong. Perhaps one really ought to face them.
Depends on what you're talking about.
Sometimes I hardly know what I'm talking about.
Nothing from my past is going to affect me, except in the way I want it to.
Everything seems all right upstairs. Just the drawing room over here.
Would you mind keeping that curtain closed, Sergeant? This place is full of drafts.
Trying to get the lay of the land, ma'am.
Molly, what is all this?
Everything looks right about the house. I think I'll make my report to Superintendent Hogman now.
But you can't telephone. The line's dead.
What? Since when?
Major Metcalf tried it just after you arrived.
But Superintendent Hogman got in all right.
Oh, yes. I suppose since then the lines are down with snow.
Or they've been cut.
Cut? Who could have cut it?
How much do you really know about these people staying in your house, Mr. Ralston?
We don't really know anything about them.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Boyle were from a Bournemouth hotel, Major Metcalf and an address in, where was it?
Leamington.
Leamington. Rin from Hampstead, the casewoman from a private hotel in Kensington, and Parduccini, as we told you, showed up at the Blue last night. Still, they've got ration books, that sort of thing.
I'm going to all that, of course, but there's not much reliance to be placed in that sort of evidence.
But even if this crazy killer was trying to get here and kill us all, we're quite safe now because of all the snow. No one can get here till it melts.
Unless he's here already.
Here already?
Oh, why not? The murder happened yesterday, and they all arrived yesterday.
Yes,
They've had plenty of time.
Except for Mr. Parduccini, they all booked beforehand.
Well, why not? These crimes were planned.
Crimes? There's only been one crime in Culver Street. Why are you so sure there'll be another here?
Well, there'll be another one here? No, I hope to prevent that, but that'll be attempted, yes.
You've got a description of what this man looked like in London?
Let's see, he was medium height, intermediate build, wore a dark overcoat and a felt hat pulled down, and a muffler pulled up to their face, and they spoke in a whisper. Now, there's 3 dark overcoats in this hallway here. One of them is yours, Mr. Ralston. Well, there's also 3 soft felt hats.
I still can't believe
It's
this.
this telephone wire that concerns me. If it's been cut, then...
I better go on to the kitchen.
Is there an extension?
Pardon me, did you say something?
Yes, I said, is there a telephone extension?
Yes, up in our bedroom.
Why don't you go up there and try it for me, won't you?
It's cold in here, too. They left all the lights on. Don't they know how much electricity costs these days?
to study the precise effect produced on the human mind. Imagine, for instance, that you are alone in a room. It is late in the afternoon. A door opens softly behind you.
Oh, it's you. Can't find anything worth listening to. Why'd you turn off the lights? Here, I'll get it.